Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. This video right here that you clicked on is basically a guide to help you through all of the steps of making my ski lodge sweater pattern. We're actually going to make this exact sweater. So this video is going to cover every step that you're going to need to use to make your own ski lodge sweater pattern. The only things that it does not cover are a cast on, how to do a knit stitch, how to do a purl stitch, and how to do a basic cast off. If you aren't familiar with any of those techniques, then you can pause this video and check out one of my videos that I have that outline those specific things. Because those are pretty beginner techniques, I didn't involve them in this video just because I didn't want to make it any longer than it had to be. So in the description below, I will also outline where you can find each technique in the video as far as timestamps. That way, if you need to come back and reference just one thing, you don't have to go through the entire video to find it again. Well, in this video, we are going to be making the sweater that I'm wearing right now. I've got to let you guys know this is not actually made true to size. However, this one is true to size in a medium. This one was made smaller purely based on the fact that I didn't have very much gray yarn. So apart from the size difference, you've probably also noticed that my color scheme is a little bit different than the pattern written as well. So before we get started, I'm just going to go over with you how you can adjust your color scheme to customize however you want it to look. Okay, so I kind of drew out, as you can see here, my color pattern, and because it's not the same as what's written in the actual pattern, I went through and I figured out where I would have to put the stripes on this one here before I began. So basically in the pattern that's written, as you can see here, on the sleeves, you go through these color changes twice before you reach the ones that matched up on the bottom row. See how the bottom matches up here. So I went through the pattern. First of all, I'm doing a black cuff and bottom row, and then I'm using dark gray here. And then I'm going to have one stripe of white. So I've went through the pattern and found on the sleeve and on the main pattern where the royal blue meets up, but I did it after 2 color changes into the 3rd color change on the pattern so that my one stripe of white will go all the way across. And then it'll go back to gray. And then basically I want a couple rows before the sleeves attach is where I want my block of color here to start. So I've also, basically I went through and I found on the sleeve and the body the bind off row, and then counted back a few rows from there for where I'm going to start my colors. So as you can see on the bottom of here, I've just written out my work there. So tools you will need: yarn, obviously. This sweater was made out of Lion Brand Wool Ease Thick and Quick. It is 100% acrylic. It's a super bulky, but I would say it's more of a bulky weight yarn. It is machine washable, super durable, easy to take care of, really great for your first sweater. I use 2 different lengths of 10mm circular needles. So the long one is what I use for the body, and then the short one I use for the sleeve. If you want to make both sleeves and attach them at the same time, then by all means get 2 short ones, but I basically just make the body up to here where the sleeves will attach and one sleeve, and once I've attached one sleeve and my circular needles are free, I make the other sleeve and then attach it. So you don't necessarily need 2. So first thing you need to do is make a gauge swatch. This is really important so that you know that you're knitting with the right tension for the project. You could be following every step to a T, and if you don't have the right tension, then your project's going to end up a lot bigger or smaller than it was supposed to. So to make a gauge swatch, you're basically going to make a square, and then you're going to measure out that it has the correct amount of rows and stitches in each row as the pattern calls for. For example, this pattern calls for a 3 by 3 inch area having 7 stitches in 11 rows. So I always make sure that I make my gauge swatch larger than what the pattern is telling me, because you don't want to be measuring from an edge to an edge. So this one is 7 stitches and 11 rows. So I'm going to do 10 stitches and 13 rows so that when I'm measuring, it's not edge to edge. I'll post a picture of my gauge swatch here so you'll be able to see what it's supposed to look like. So now that you've checked your gauge, we're ready to start the project, and we're gonna go and cast on. Okay, I'm gonna start my cast on. Okay, once we've cast on the amount of stitches that you need, we're going to start knitting in the round. So basically just get your first cast on stitch to the front of your left needle. Then you want to follow this, the bottom, so make sure all the stitches are facing the same way so that you don't get a twisted bottom. And then with our working yarn, we're just going to start knitting in the round. So for the ribbing, we're going to do knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. We're just going to keep working around. Okay, when I'm ready to make a color change, I'm simply going to snip my old color with enough of a tail to sew in later. I'm going to take my new color and just tie a knot here. And I'll weave these ends in later. And then I'm just going to continue knitting with my new color. Now when I want to do an increase, so it tells us in the instructions that we want to make a twisted stitch to increase. So what we're going to do is between the last stitch that we have on our right hook and the next stitch on our left hook, we're going to look for this bar that comes up in the middle. So I'm going to use my right hook to pick up the bar from the front and then slide it on to my left needles. So you should see the open space of the bar open towards your right needle. And then you're going to knit. So go in through the front of that stitch that you just put onto that needle and then knit it off. So see how it twisted that up? That will just keep the stitches nice and tight when you're adding a stitch. Okay, I'm at the cast off row for the sleeve. So in the instructions, we need to cast off a total of 6 stitches. I'm going to start, you need to knit 2 stitches to start the cast off. 1, 2, cast off 1 stitch, knit 1 more, cast off that stitch. We're casting off 3 stitches to start the row. So we only cast off 3 stitches, but we've knit 4 because we still have 1 stitch on our needle here. So we're going to knit 37 more. 1, Okay, so I've got 3 stitches left on my left needle that I need to cast off. I'm not going to cast off this one. I'm going to knit 2 again. Cast off the first one, 1. Cast off this one. And then this is our last stitch that we're going to snip. So basically we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are casted off. And then I'm going to show you now how to cast off the parts of the body that we'll need to cast off to attach the sleeves. So we're going to start by casting off the first 3 stitches of the row. So we need to knit 2, cast off, cast off, cast off. So again, we've cast off 3, but we've knit 4. So there's still 1 on our right needle. And we want 44 stitches in between sleeve areas for this size. So I'm going, or we want 45, sorry. So we're going to knit 44, and that way we'll have 45 on the sleeve. So 1, 2, okay, 44. So now I'm going to cast off another 6, the next 6 stitches. So we're going to knit 2 again and cast off. Make sure you knit the 2 to cast off, because if you only knit 1 and then start casting off, then you're casting off a stitch that you need to be in this section. So make sure when you're casting off, you always knit the 2 stitches and then cast off. Now just 1, cast off, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to knit 44 again. Okay, so I've knit 44 again, and then you'll see there's 3 more stitches that are left on our left needle that we need to cast off. So we're going to knit 2 again, cast off 1, knit, cast off, and then you can pull this one out, or if you want like a tighter cast off in here, sometimes I'll just kind of knit into this stitch here and then cast off the 3rd one. And that will just kind of close this up so that we don't have a big space in between here. I'm going to pull that out, snip this yarn. So now you'll see we've got 45 stitches, and then our space here where we're going to attach a sleeve, 45 stitches, and our space where we're going to attach a sleeve. Basically be the point where we're about to attach the sleeve, but I want our work to start at the back of the sweater now, so that when we have color changes, this little jog will be at the back of the sweater. So I'm going to pass these stitches from the left over to the right so that we can move where we're starting our work from. And it'll just make where we're attaching the sleeves a little bit cleaner. So I'm just going to come in purl-wise like this and pass the sleeves or pass the stitches from the left needle to the right needle. So just come in this way, pass it over. So for this size, I'm passing 23 stitches over. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now you'll see we're in the center back of the sweater, and we've got 23 stitches here after our space, and we've got 22 stitches here until we reach our space. So this is the row that we're going to attach the sleeve. So we're just going to start by just going to hold my tail end in my right hand behind my right needle just to hold it tight. And I'm just going to start knitting, so knit like regular. So this is going to be a little bit loose until we've knit a couple of rows, and then we can sew this end in, but right now it's secure enough just sitting behind there. So knit 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically we're just going to knit until we reach the space. So now we've reached the space. This is going to end up under the armpit, kind of. So we're going to take our sleeve here, and you'll see the space that we have between our needles here. We basically want those to line up like this, because that's where we're going to sew our armpit closed. So with our right side facing out here, we're just going to continue to knit along, and we're going to knit around our sleeve. So again, with our spaces lined up together here, just going to start knitting around the sleeve. Okay, so now these shorter needles are free, so I can start my other sleeve after. And then once you've got the whole sleeve on your right needles, again with this space lined up here, and we're just going to knit into the body again. And that is the first row where we've attached the sleeve. So I only have one set of these shorter circulars, so at this point I'm just going to pause with this, and I'm going to start my second sleeve so that. Okay, so we've got to the part where we've attached the sleeve on our sweater that we've been working on. So now I'm going to teach you the 2 stitches that we're going to use when working up this part of the sweater. So there's 2 types of decreases. One is a knit 2 together, which is the one that creates a decrease that's leaning to the right. And then we are going to also use a slip slip knit, and that's the one that creates the decrease that's leaning to the left. So I'll show you on the work that we're working on. Okay, so here I'm just on the second round after attaching the sleeves. So this round only has 1 decrease per corner in the row, corner, whatever you want to call it. Some of them have 2, some of them have 1. You'll see in the pattern, but okay, so I'm just gonna work up to, this is where I want my decrease to be. So yeah, so I have one stitch from where I attach the body and one stitch from where I attach the sleeve. So to knit two together, I'm basically just going to insert my right hook like I would a normal knit stitch, but going through both of the stitches, and then just knit them like normal. I'm going to work around this sleeve till I get to where I'm going to do the other type of decrease, which is the slip slip knit. Okay, so I'm at the spot where I want my next decrease. Again, right here, just because it's the second row after I attach the sleeves, I have one stitch that is on the sleeve side or from the sleeve, and then one stitch that was from the body. Okay, so for slip slip knit, what I'm going to do is knitwise, go in from the front of the stitch here. I'm going to slip this knit or this stitch over onto my right needle, and then purlwise, so coming in from the back, I'm going to slip a second stitch over to my right needle, and then also purlwise, I'm going to insert my left needle back into this one, basically so that my right needle is in a knit position, like it would be if I was knitting. And then yarn over counterclockwise and pull through both of those stitches. So you'll see, because we slipped this first stitch on knitwise, it's open here. If we slipped it on the other way, this stitch would be twisted and this stitch would be closed off. So because I've been doing a knit one, purl one for the ribbing, we're going to do a knit one, purl one, bind off. So we're just going to purl, bind off, knit, bind off, purl, bind off, knit. Then I'm just going to bind off one more into this starting stitch, or the first stitch in the row. I'm just going to knit another one onto there. And bind off. I'm going to sew in the end up the ribbing. When I have ribbing like this, tend to just kind of go up one of them and weave around. And then attach that end to wherever I did my color change. Kind of do a double knot there to secure it, and then snip it there, leave the knot there. Then you won't have anything hanging at the bottom here. Okay, in order to weave in all these ends that we have on the inside of the sweater from color changes, you're just gonna put your string on your needle, and then you can see here, just put this down here, you just want to follow this string through. You're going to follow it through here, follow this around here, goes through here, kind of just keep following the pattern that you see the yarn going through. Weave it in, so see, you can't see it there anymore, and then you can just cut it, and then it'll be nice and hidden. So you can do that with all of your strings, or if you're just keeping the sweater for yourself and you don't care if the inside is messy, you can literally just cut it where the knots are. Maybe double knot it one more time, but it's kind of up to you on how clean you want the inside of your sweater to look. We're gonna close the armpit hole now. You can just use the string that's on the tails from when we bind it off earlier. Okay, so if we're gonna look at the edge of the holes, see how this row goes through, and we'll kind of say that row attaches to here. So when you're looking at our work here, you can see how this goes around in a loop here, goes around a loop here, around a loop here, around. Can you see that? Kind of this entire row is like that. The loop goes around, it goes around. Then here on the bottom, we're looking for the same place where the loop goes around. So we're just going to follow that pattern. I don't know what the right word for it is. I'm just gonna weave my string over so that we can start on one edge. Okay. So I'm going to start here just so we don't have a hole in this corner. So see how this goes around? So that's what I'm going to go through here. Then you won't be able to see the string at all because it blends exactly with the string that was underneath. So then following this one goes around here, so we're going to go just through like this, and then see how it will follow the pattern so we won't see it. Now on this side, it's this row here that goes around, so we're just going to come through like this, then back up to this one, and this one. And that looks pretty much closed up. I'm just gonna go through this. I know this isn't really following the pattern, but just so that make sure we don't have any hole here in the corner. And there you go. So you've closed up that seam. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something, and I hope that it helped you in your journey to make your sweater. If it was your first sweater, congratulations. Actually, congratulations if it was your 50th sweater. I also really want to see your final projects, so tag me in them on Instagram, erinlizabethw. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos, and leave me a comment on what kind of stuff that you enjoy making, what kind of stuff you want to see in the future, what kind of stuff you struggle with. Yeah, any questions that you have, let me know.